All right, let me check the audio really quick. All right, we have a subto deal that just got posted. Let's see what we can do with this information. 2307 4 acre road, Jacksonville, Florida. It's a 4-bed, 2-bath, 1904 square feet. Purchase price $303,518. The mortgage balance is $303,518. So you can see why this person is selling on a subject to agreement, which means that you are taking over the existing loan subject to. So now that you're buying a property subject to existing financing, chances are this person had no equity. So if you think about it, right, if they're selling for $303,518, but they have a mortgage balance of $303,518, after you have your closing costs and your broker fees and commissions, like they probably have to cut a check in order to sell this property, which means that they would lose money, and sometimes that's not money that they probably even have. So that's why the entry fee is 45 grand. So let's go ahead and plug in some of these numbers really quick. Okay. All right. Now, the first thing I'm going to do is I'm going to go pull a property. We can take a look at this property together. 2307. Let me see if this is in the flood zone. I always do this for properties in Florida. It looks pretty okay. Not in the flood zone. Doesn't look like it. All right. Relatively turnkey for the most part, assuming that these are all the pictures and they're pretty recent. We only have 6 photos, so you can't really tell much. Let's see what county this is in, because the first thing we want to do is we want to look up the fair market rents. So this is in Duval County. You can see this right here, Duval. Okay. When you Google HUD FMR on Google, just click on the first link, scroll all the way down, click on access to small area FMRs. Then you'll click on look up 2024 FMRs. Click on Florida, click on the county. And now you're going to see the rent ceiling by bedroom count by zip code, which is 32210. 32210. And you're going to see right here that the rent ceiling for a 4-bed is $2220. $2220. Okay. 22220. And then the 3-bed was $1740. Pretty big lift going from a 3-bed to a 4-bed here. 32210. 32210. Okay. I have to write down all these details because my partners already know how to analyze deals. So when I write this down, it's pretty easy for them to follow. Then the next thing I want to get is I want to get the market rents. Now, when you go to affordablehousing.com, go to the owner section, go to the market rent estimator, plug in the address, plug in bedroom count. The most important number here is going to be this number here on the bottom right, where it says for 25 units within a 1.03 mile radius, the average rent is $1739. $1739, and that was within a 1.03. 2021, 1864, 1691, 1864, 1691. All right. Now, when we're using the rents, this is where you would be making a mistake. If you assume that you can get this full fair market rent at $2220, well, in that scenario, you're going to have this deal at $1739, and that's going to be the lower of the two. Okay. Now, you have to take the lower of the two because of the rent reasonableness test. Let me bring up the housing choice voucher. And in section 2.2, this is where you're able to see, hey, in conducting rent reasonableness, the PHA, the Public Housing Authority, must determine whether the rent to the owner is a reasonable rent, in comparison to rent for other comparable unassisted units, which means that you can't charge more rent to a tenant simply because they are a voucher holder for obvious reasons. And obviously the location, the quality, the size, unit type, single family versus condos, all that stuff is going to factor. So if you ever want to say, hey, can I get more rent than what the market is charging? You better find out from the housing authority what they prioritize and what they consider to be a much higher priority sort of item, because you need to figure out what sort of exceptions do they make, if they do make any at all. So now let's go ahead and plug in all the numbers, right? So let's go ahead. I'm going to put this over here. on the far right. And again, for those of you that are watching on Instagram, just follow us on YouTube. And you guys will be able to see the full screen version. I'm going to plug in the numbers there. So the mortgage balance is 303,518. Interest rate 3.25%. I don't really care about when it started, but it says right here it matures in February 2052. So I'm going to assume that started 30 years before that. So February 1, 2022. Okay. Now the rent we're going to be able to charge is going to be the lower of the two. So I'm going to use 1739. So I'll just use 1750 just for ease of rounding. 1750. And now the asking price is going to be 303,518. Renovations. I'm going to assume that we just need to paint the place, and that's all we need to do. So when you guys go to my rehab spreadsheet, I'm going to assume that I'm going to put in the square footage for just maybe even half the home, because it does look pretty good, unless these photos are really old. So I'm going to put this up as 1904. So 1904 at $3 a square foot. That's going to be my renovations to paint the entire place, just in case there's any issues with it. I got $500 for landscaping, and I got $1,500 for the roof, just in case there's any issues there. Okay. Now that I got 303, 1750, I'm going to get my total PITI, which was listed as 2150.04 equals 2150.04. And I'm going to subtract the principal portion of the subto loan, and I'll subtract the interest portion of the subto loan. And that gives me to $829.11, right? It doesn't matter exactly what it is, because the whole point of this process right now is simply to decide whether or not this home is worth our time to investigate further. Now, when we do this, we have to figure out just exactly what the general range of the total amount is. So now that I got the taxes and insurance number, I'm also going to add an extra $50 to the insurance number every single month, because Florida's insurance goes up crazy every single year, especially with all the catastrophe and climate change, etc. So that cost is continuing to go up, and it's going to probably erode a lot of cash flow. So you have this piece, you add $50, because generally that insurance number that was buried in the escrow amount for the PITI number is probably for someone that's living there as a primary residence. And usually when you switch from a primary residence to a investment rental property, that premium is going to go up every single month. All right. So I got 10% set aside for my maintenance and my war chest, which means that something I expect to break or replace will have to be put aside in a separate bank account that allows me to take care of all these homes. So now I got $175 in there for every single month. I got 8% for property management I'm setting aside to pay the property manager, and I got 5% for vacancy. So if you assume that you're renting out as a 4-bedroom for $1,750, you will be losing negative $853 a month. And that's assuming it's a negative 16.5% return, negative 16.5% return. Assuming your entry fee was $45,000, which is disclosed right here in the posting. I had 2.5% for closing costs, and I got about $9,000 for renovations, just in case there's any issues. So that is why this is not a deal. Now, if I were you and I was trying to avoid burnout, right? As soon as I saw that the PITI was 2150, right? You might thought you would have broken even if you just looked at the HUD FMR and saw that the rent ceiling was 2220. You're like, okay, 2220 minus 2150, I got like $70 of spread there. And that's not good enough, right? So when you have all these items set aside, then you look at the market rent and you saw that the market rent was 1739. Because of the rent reasonableness test, I would have ruled out this deal right away, because with the market rent of 1739, that's way below. Hey, good morning. That's way below the PITI. That's how you quickly realize that this is not a deal. It's probably not worth your time. And that's at that point in time is probably the moment where I probably would have stopped analyzing the deal. And why would we stop analyzing the deal? Is because we want to avoid burnout. Burnout typically happens when you do a lot of work every single day for no return on your time and your effort. So the quicker you can establish your investment criteria, and again, this is not investment advice. I'm not soliciting any investments. I'm not giving any investment advice. I'm simply showing you all the work I'm doing every single day and why I go through this process every day, so that we can get the reps in But most importantly, we figure out how to rule out deals and stop analyzing deals. If you can stop analyzing a deal 1 minute versus 18 minutes, that's a huge savings on your time and most importantly, your energy. You don't want to spend all this time for no results and you don't want to waste a goodwill with your local boots on the ground. If you keep sending someone out there to take photos or to walk a property for a property that you're not even close to buying or investing in, that's going to ruin a lot of goodwill if you keep sending people out there. It's like the boy who cried wolf. So that's why we do this together, so we can get better at this together. And my hope is that you can analyze the same deal I analyzed today using the same spreadsheet. You guys want to copy the spreadsheet? You can either DM me your email on Instagram, or you can go to our website, affordablehousing.io, not .com, affordablehousing.io, 2 letters, and just go click on the get free deal analysis tool, and that will make the process go so much more smooth. And this way you don't have to wait for my assistant, who is out on vacation for the next few days, to get a copy of your spreadsheet. So that spreadsheet's not mine. I simply took it from somebody else and I tweaked it and I modified it so that I can analyze my deals a lot faster. That's it. So go ahead and copy my homework. Analyze the same deal I put on today. Just pick one part and say it better. Use a better analogy than I did and put it on your own YouTube channel. Because with that, you're going to get yourself an undeniable track history that you know what you're doing. And if a partner ever asks you, hey, why do you think this is a deal? You can go tell them, hey, I know this is a deal because for the past 239 days, I've been looking at deals every single day and analyzing them. Might that give your partners a little bit more confidence that you know what you're doing? Might that make you feel a little bit more confident that you know what you're doing? I certainly hope so. All right. Have an amazing day, everybody. I hope you guys spend some quality time with your family and friends today. I hope you guys have an amazing holiday weekend with Memorial Day coming up tomorrow. I'll be back here again tomorrow for day 240. Have a good one, everybody. Talk to you tomorrow.